So I grew up in the church. We grew up actually sitting, I felt like, on the front row. Was very active. I had a pretty strong testimony. And then my parents, I did not know at the time that their marriage, it was super unhealthy. But when they came to us and told us they were getting divorced, I was like, wait, what? Like, we're supposed to be an eternal family. This is, you know, it was devastating to me at the time. I grew up in a very abusive home. My dad was very abusive, pretty much went through every kind of abuse that you could imagine. And then I married into abuse with my first husband, and it was very abusive, to the point where I actually, had I stayed, I don't know that I'd be here today. So I actually got married when I was 17, had a baby at 17, and was in a pretty rough marriage, and pretty much the same marriage that my parents I had seen growing up. And it wasn't until after I had my daughter that I realized that if I stayed, she was going to see the same things I seen growing up. And so I, ended up leaving, and I lived with my grandparents. My grandparents had a great bishop at the time who I went to church with my grandparents a couple times, and he invited me in to visit with him. This bishop was extremely loving, extremely caring. That bishop is the one that actually probably saved me, because he's the one that actually introduced me to the LDS family services and invited me to go. He knew that I needed help, and that was 23 years ago. I participated in a group that was for women that had been abused growing up. I walked into this little group, and I was actually a little bit shocked, because this room sat with a handful of beautiful women, women that I would have never guessed who had been through similar things that I had been through, because at the time I had no self-esteem. I pretty much thought that I was ugly as the dirt on the ground, like I had been through such terrible things and been told some of those things that's how I felt. So when I walked in and met these beautiful women, these women that were wonderful, that had similar stories, I started to see things differently and realized that there is something there that I was missing. And the groups were wonderful in the sense too that they brought the light of Christ into the group, and the healing that came through that was just amazing. So I was a high school dropout, had a baby when I was 17, and eventually decided to go back to school, and went back to school and had to start with my high school and finish that, then started into college and got my associates, and then continued on to my bachelor's of nursing, and now I'm a nurse practitioner, so I've watched the Lord's hand through my life. I do have struggles, trusting Heavenly Father. I have struggles sometimes knowing what that love is and what it feels like, but there have been times that I have felt it and felt such overwhelming peace, and truly that's come from the counseling services that I've been involved in throughout the years. It's worth the fight, and it's worth, getting help for, that you're not alone, that there's so many women, there's so many people that are victims, and there's help out there.